switch.
Greetings to the citizens of the United States. We are anonymous. The time is now, Mr. President, to get your administration under control, and to move on the key issues that got you elected. Your promise to control immigration and thus keep us safer. You also got elected to unravel Obamacare and do tax reform. You got elected to be sure we don't have a Manchester London anywhere in America. We stand with our European allies, but we will not walk in their footsteps and repeat their mistakes. That is the message, Mr. President, you must convey to the American people in light of the growing Islamic insurgency in the West. Like the story of the frog in gradually boiling water, we become acclimated to the most potent and dangerous absurdities foisted upon us by the political elite. No other generation of Western leaders would have allowed the Islamic insurgency to fester within their own countries for this long and still remain willfully blind to the existential threat within their midst. Yet here we are, in the aftermath of the third major terror attack in England, and none of the Western leaders are willing to confront the truth. President Trump has come the closest to telling the truth. But unless he shows leadership beyond Twitter and hires staff and appoints cabinet members who share his values, the discernible policy outcomes of this administration will remain materially the same. It's time we recognize that the problem confronting Europe, one that is also rapidly growing in America, is not terrorism. It's not Islamic terrorism, either. Terrorism is a tactic and the violent outcome of the problem. The source of the problem is a subversive culture of Islamic supremacy that rejects Western civilization, and is endemic to many, but not all, Muslims, not just a few. It is from this root that the deadly tactic of Islamic terror is cultivated. But if we tolerate the intolerant supremacist mindset and continue our suicidal immigration policies, we are merely chasing our tail, combating the ubiquitous and unstoppable terror that flows from cultivating this culture on our soil. This problem didn't begin with ISIS, it's been festering for several decades. At its core, this is an immigration problem, and second, it's a problem of the Muslim Brotherhood, Saudi Arabia, Turkey funding of Islamic insurrection on Western soil. Lest you think this problem is limited to Europe, remember that former FBI Director James Comey testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee last month that there were 2,000 plus violent extremist investigations underway and that about 300 of them were refugees. The President must lay this case before the American people in a series of prime-time speeches and demand action from Congress while promising to do everything he can administratively. He must follow up on his campaign promises not to focus on nation building overseas, but on the homeland security problems right on our shores. Finally, what we need from the President is leadership. Sending out a few tweets is not enough. He needs to be consistent, relentless, and specific and see his policies all the way through. He must get his entire administration on the same page and fire those who are unwilling to go along with his agenda. His united team should then demand of congressional Republicans very specific legislation along the lines of the aforementioned principles. Then the President must sell them to the American people in a series of televised addresses. You will be hearing more from me going forward on the specific legislation needed to scrap or reform the U.S. refugee admissions program. But, I tell you that the Republican leadership in Congress will not lead on this. And will have to be dragged kicking and screaming to lift a finger to reform. Rewrite the Refugee Act of 1980. In my view, there is only one thing the President can do to move Congress on the issue, and that is to put a complete halt to the Refugee Act. He must set the refugee admissions level at 0, and leave it there until reform measures are passed by Congress. And here is the truth, If he makes no move along those lines, or the additional lines addressed, he will be blamed for a Manchester in America. Not Ryan, not McConnell, not the refugee contractors, not the deep state blocking his moves, not the media or the left wing. If he visibly fights now and makes it clear who exactly is working to undermine our safety and our cultural identity, should, God forbid, a terrorist attack happen, the citizens of America will know he was trying to protect us. We are anonymous. We are one.